here's the difference between the way my friends that are of color and my friends that are white perceive the whole Ferguson thing. There is something called white privilege in our culture, and I really believe it exists. Here's what white privilege is. When the verdict of Darren Wilson came out, when they said that they're not even going to bother to try to charge him with this crime, white people had the luxury of being outraged.
Right.
Minority folks were frightened. They were fucking terrified. Okay, because
It
they were
does
told.
seem that they're under the gun more than
Right,
we are. It does
right,
seem that there are two different lines of thought with violence. It seems like
right,
in this country, a black
right,
man's life isn't worth as much as a white man's
right,
life.
and
It just
that's how
seems
they
that way by
perceive
how
it.
the police officers treat them.
And that disgusts me. But like I said, I have the luxury of feeling outraged. I don't feel like I'm being hunted like a fucking big game animal when I walk out my front door. But I have black friends that do feel that way. You know, when people talk about this, when they're analyzing it and looking at riots, when they're looking at stuff burning down, when they're looking at people looting, they don't understand. And I need to go through this. I have been in riots, multiple riots. I've seen mentality at work. Uh, and when people say, oh, well, why don't they attack the police station, or why don't they, burn up a politician's house, or why don't they go after the system? Why are they burning down their own neighborhood? It's because when a mob mentality takes over, people are operating on an animal level. When you get adrenaline jacked and people are breaking shit, you conform. People just start breaking shit. It's because they feel like they're hopeless. These people feel like that they don't have anything to lose. They feel like their justice system is the just us and not you system. Just us. So they're gonna break and burn down whatever's closest to them. You're not thinking in a riot. So that whole mentality about, oh, well, they should be doing this, or they should go to the polls and vote. They have gone to the polls and voted. Their politicians have turned their backs on them. They have filed public information requests. They have tried to get justice for Mike Brown. They have tried to get a grand jury. Thing is that I want people to go and Google the grand jury, the prosecutor, the supposed advocate on the side of Michael Brown. They actually handed the grand jurors a outdated legal doctrine towards the beginning of the grand jury proceedings, like 2 weeks ago. Okay, they handed them an outdated legal doctrine stating that it is okay for police to shoot somebody if they're fleeing, to use lethal force just because they're fleeing. Oh, and then towards right before the announcement, right before they close the grand jury, the prosecutor says, "Oh, well, I handed you a document, and in section blah 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 under subclause B under title blah blah blah, one of those things was wrong. So I made a mistake. Oops, my bad." They didn't say, "Oh, the part that I explained to you to where it's legal for a cop to shoot somebody just because they're fleeing is wrong." They didn't say that. They used a bunch of effed up, confusing ass legal doctrine. So basically, the supposed person in the grand jury, the prosecutor that was supposed to be on the side of Mike Brown and his family, misled the grand jury. So that's justice. So if you're a black person and you live in one of these minority communities, you're gonna break some shit and burn some shit down. That's just gonna happen because they've exhausted petitioning their government for redress of grievance. There's been a half a dozen people. No, actually, more than a dozen, like 14 people have been killed by cops since the Mike Brown shooting. You know, since it goes
Including a
on every
12-year-old boy
single
with a
day.
pellet gun, including a 12-year-old boy in
Yeah.
a park who had a pellet gun, and a local citizen who was concerned called in, some busybody asshole called in, "Oh, this boy's got a gun." 12-year-old kid shot down
Yep. Yep.
over a pellet gun.
Right. Like, and it
He
happened.
didn't even have it out. It
And,
was in
and
his pants pocket.
and to go back on the flip side of this, Americans and their psychology cracks me up, especially white Americans. You know, like we somehow are still operating from this delusional sense. We believe in the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. We operate from this psychological perspective that it's not going to happen to us. The police say it's not going to happen to us. There was a mentally ill homeless guy, 7 years ago here in Portland, Oregon, by the name of James Chassie Jr. This guy peed in public. The police, for the crime of public urination, the police chase him down and beat him to death. They beat James Chassie so bad because he ran away after they said, we're going to arrest you for peeing outside. They beat him so bad that his lungs were punctured by broken ribs. He literally drowned in his own blood. Okay, and this is for public urination. Judge Dredd gets away with that shit in this country. James Chassie was a white guy, a white guy that just didn't know how to follow police orders. Um, uh, it's going to happen to everybody. This use of force doctrine is slowly, incrementally getting worse and worse and worse.